Pretty baby, dry your eyes, don't you know it can't be?
Hello, everybody. It is 8:59 p.m. Central Time on the 25th of November, 2020. It's Wednesday night here in the United States. Hope you're doing well. Nighttime update here on the Earthquake 3D livestream. Somewhat rare. And before we get going, let me just quickly show you the Christmas decorations again. We've got the beautiful fire going, but we're not here to get that. We are here to talk about seismic events. And again, we are using Earthquake 3D, the program, if you don't know what you're looking at. And we're looking at about 48 hours worth of earthquakes that have struck. The older earthquakes are marked in a reddish and pinkish color, and the younger earthquakes today are white. Additionally, the higher they are off the planet, the deeper they are into the Earth. And we have ourselves a deep earthquake event taking place. And for instance, right here, down here off the coast of central southwestern Chile, about 500 miles off the coast, a new deep 5.7 came rolling in, but you don't see this raised off the globe, do you? The Europeans reported it as deep. The USGS left it at an auto-generated depth of 10 kilometers. So we know it's a deep earthquake there as well as Argentina, Fiji, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Japan, all going with deep earthquakes in the last day. So that's all in the last day, a bunch of deep earthquakes, and I've explained this before, just really quick for new people, let me show you what I think is going on with the deep quakes. I think we have a series of waves coming together in what's called a concentric wave on the curvature of the underside of the plates where the deep earthquakes are happening, and the focus point where the waves all focus in on each other. There's no compression into fluid, basically, and it comes up out of the magma down below the plates and hammers into the underside of the plate. So deep earthquakes hammering in on the underside of the plate over here down by the coast of South America and into Argentina, back over to Fiji, like I said, back up to Japan, and over to Indonesia. Let me show it to you on the USGS plate boundary map here. Oh, hold on one second. Let's get that open. There we are. So where the red lines exist all the way around the Pacific plate, that's the spot we're talking about where the deep earthquakes are happening over to the east, South America, at Fiji, Indonesia, and Japan. So something's going on down below the Pacific plate, causing a disturbance, which I think we can trace that back to the solar activity that's been incoming. We've talked about that before. There's many studies that are out about this. How solar activity can lead to an increase in earthquake activity overall around the planet, and we've seen an increase in deep earthquake activity when the solar activity comes bombarding into Earth's magnetosphere and ionosphere. Also, we have to talk about this. A 6.1 earthquake struck down here where our letter X is. See the letter X far south of New Zealand. So we need to look back at the plate boundary map again. It'll make a little bit more sense. Down to the south of New Zealand, here's Antarctica, and here's our 6.1, right where the two fracture zones come together. So from up north, all the way across New Zealand, down to the south, a lot of movement's been going on, including 5.0 range activity to the north of New Zealand, White Island volcano doing something, steam and ash of some kind, 4 is going across the rest of New Zealand over the past week, and now a 6 down to the south. That's on top of the 6 that was up here to the north, or well, I don't know if it was a 6 here, hold on. What was the size that it finally came in at? 5.5, 5.4, 5.3. Okay, well, you take them all, add them together. 5.5 plus 5.4 equals 5.64. Add in another 5.3, and we're at a 5.77. So 5.8. In other words, we got a 6 worth of energy up to the north and a 6 down to the south. Pretty obvious. That's on both sides of New Zealand, right? You can see it's on to the north side of New Zealand and to the south side of New Zealand on both sections of the plate boundary. North side, south side. Now, over to the west, we have a lot of things to talk about. So, the deep earthquake activity. We need to watch for new volcanic activity to start popping off around where our deep earthquakes are. Now, I have not checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center list for today pretty much. I checked it last night. But first of all, seismic activity is picked up across our open, quiet zone. This whole area was quiet. Now we get in right next to Mount Krakatau. We have a new 4.4 south tip of Sumatra, Western Java, or South Sumatra. 4.4, same-sized earthquake, right up here to the northwest tip of Sumatra, and that gets into what I saw last night on the list, which was an addition of Mount Sinabung. So let's go see if it's still on the list. Sumanizajima in Japan, that's South Japan. Dukono in Indonesia, Reventador in Ecuador, Sabancaya in Peru. Sanjay in Ecuador, Fuego in Guatemala, Sumanizajima again. Dukono, Reventador, Sanjay, Sabancaya. Let's see if we can find it. There it is, Mount Sinabung. 10,000 foot high blast, flight level 100. Fuego in Guatemala, etc. These are all the eruptors from the past couple days. Nothing new added to the list. Kluchevskoy up in Kamchatka, Russia, up to 20,000 feet, but that might sound very big, but with this volcano, it regularly does 20,000 foot high blast. I think it has to do with the shape of the inner part of the cone top of the volcano. It's kind of shaped perfectly to shoot that straight up. I think that's what goes on there a lot. Anyway, so that's the eruptor list for today, and the only one I really want to focus in on at length is right next to where the earthquakes are, right here. Mount Sinabung. So this was quiet, there was nothing going on across here, and then Mount Sinabung just blew, and 2 different 4.4s going right down into our warned area. Check it out, another 5.5. So how many 5.5s is that, by the way? We have the 5.3 and the 5.5 here. We have the 6.1 and the 5.5. Well, let's see if I can get that back on here. There, 5.5 down here where the Dutch Sense logo is. And we told you 5.5s were spreading out. We had a 5.4 to 5.5 here next to Guam on the Izu Ridge. And we had another 5.5 up next to Tokyo. This is all in the past few days. So last night, a new 5.5 spread out over to the west. Same sized energy spreading out in all directions as we expect. Now notice the USGS map here has nothing going across the Indian Ocean. Do you see that? The red line goes up into Myanmar, over through Nepal, back down into Pakistan. That's on the USGS map. On our map, we have an arrow going right across here, and look where it goes to. It goes right into the middle of the fracture zone and carries on over into Africa. Now this fracture zone goes up to the north and meets up with our other arrow. Now what should happen here is a split. We should see an increase in activity here going across southern Africa, mainly towards where the X is, but we have to go back across Mayotte Island, north of Madagascar or northwest of Madagascar, and we go back over here to the 5.5, where the fracture zone is shaped like a stair step. So it should divide. The energy should divide. Part of it should go over to Africa. The other part should go up the red line and divide again in 2 ways. One through the Gulf of Aden, south of Yemen and Saudi Arabia. The other up through the number 7 shape bend in the plate here up into Iran. So it's going to split and split again. So what's the split going to do? The 5.5 should split apart and go into a 5.3 or similar, a swarm of earthquakes, here from the X back across through Mayotte. Additionally, we should see a new 5.2, 5.1, 5.2, low end 5 strike here next to the Gulf of Aden, and we should see another low end 5 come in right down here where all the rings overlap in South Iran. So it should split and split again. This 5.5 is going to go down and then go up and down again. In magnitude, I mean. It's going to go up to the north and go down in magnitude as it spreads out across that red line, that plate boundary. It's going to go up into Iran and up into the Gulf of Aden. Right, probably right here where the plate boundary splits apart. Okay, so then you see they both go and re-pull back up in Turkey, don't they? Now, I have a warning which was partially fulfilled the other night here east of Crete. I'm going to keep that warning going. I would think between Turkey and Crete, we'll still warn Crete, but we have to watch between the plate boundary here and all the way over to Crete. It's like 800 miles or something, but I would think that the earthquake forecast point of this would be right down here in eastern Crete. We'll keep watch in both areas. Sorry, I almost just coughed in the mic. I did cough in the microphone. Almost just died into the microphone there. Man, late night update. Uh-oh. Been talking all day. Okay, so got to remember that, right? Get a drink before I go in or something. So here we go. We have to warn here east of Crete, but going across the rest of Europe over the next few days, we should see an increase take place going up to Romania, up to Poland, and back across up into central Italy. Now, before I get into any of that, look what just struck today. Three sets of fours, previously two, they're marked in a pinkish color. And this one, right in the middle, struck right at the end of my update, a day ago. Then, since then, a new 4 came in on the back side and a new 4 out on the front side or the north side. So 2 sets of 4s and a 4.2 in the middle. Bunch of smaller earthquakes spreading out across, going up even to North France. Oh, France. Look at that. Tremblement de terre. Right? Did I say it right? I think I did. Maybe I didn't. Who cares? That's the way you say it in French. It's the point. It's the thought that counts. So there it is. It's a 2.8. And it's right here, right at the mouth of the English Channel or the northwest coast of France. So this finally gets us moving in North Europe. It's been a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, since we've seen anything up here to the north of any significance. This follows the 4.0 earthquake that was in Switzerland, the 4.3 earthquake that was in Poland. Now we get near 3.0 in North France. We should look ultimately out to the North Mid-Atlantic Ridge north of Iceland, in between Iceland and Svalbard, for a new increase. This might take us to Jan Mayen, right in the middle of this little itty-bitty island. And we'd have to watch there for the size earthquakes coming out of South Europe, which is in the 5 range. See the 5.2, for instance, down in the African plate boundary in Algeria. So follow the red lines again. They go out to the west and dead end into the Azores, but the USGS has nothing across Central and Eastern Europe. And notice we have our arrows in Central and Eastern Europe. This indicates the flow that comes out of the Aegean Sea and goes around Europe, out to the English Channel, and furthermore, out to the North Mid-Atlantic. And the same sized earthquake activity that comes rolling into South Europe tends to strike out to our X's at the Azores, Iceland, all the way past Svalbard, up to the North Arctic. And it usually happens within about a week. And it's been over a week. So we're due. It's about ready to happen. It's already going up into the English Channel. The flow is going out towards the Azores also with a 3.2. A lot of movement at the Canaries. Cliff collapse at the Canaries as well last week. Let's jump across and go all the way over here into Chile. Now, we have a warning going right here in Chile. And I would include off the coast by a few hundred miles. This is like 500 or 600 miles, maybe even more, off the coast. But it's dead on, dead center, right in the middle, next to where we have our warning going. And we have a warning going for something about this size. Maybe just a little bigger even. I would still think we need to watch along the coast. But letting us know that something's going on. I might be wrong. This may go right down the stair step and down and around, because look, a new 4.1 struck down here at the north tip of Antarctica. And let me show you the plate boundary again. Hold on, look at this. This will make so much sense in about 2 seconds. Energy coming down and across. Here's our 5.7. Deep, by the way. Deep earthquake here. The stair-step fracture zone comes down and goes down and around. And look, branches off and goes down into Antarctica. But ultimately, the flow is going over to the east to the South Sandwich Islands, right here where the tip of the X is. So the flow is at least reaching down to Antarctica, and the displacement is coming up from down below this whole area. Remember, there's a deep earthquake here in Argentina raised high off the globe, and this 5.7 should be raised high off the globe. But the USGS is remiss not reporting the depth when we know it's a deep earthquake. It matters if there's a deep earthquake here, coming up from below the plate here, and coming up from below the plate here. It means there's a lot of energy coming up below South America. And it would mean we need to watch South America for significant earthquake activity to take place in between our sets of deep earthquakes. And if we go in between this and this, out in the ocean, the middle point between the two, look where all the rings overlap, guys. That's the warned area. So, we're like 3 or 4 days in on the warning, and we're watching for about a week, so we have about 3 or 4 more days to go. Now, let's get into Central America, where Cayman Islands was hit, finally, and there's our warned area hit again. Let's open up the earthquake on the USGS map here and show you where we warned and where the earthquake struck. First of all, we warned for 5.0 range, near 5, and a 4.4 came in, so that's acceptable on the magnitude. Now, the location was the Cayman Islands, where I issued the warning. Well, there's the Cayman Islands, and our distance is about 70 miles, maybe 50 to 70 miles. Here's the key down at the bottom, so what, 10, 20, 30, 40, I can measure on Google Earth, but it's about 50 to 70 miles. So that's definitely an earthquake forecast hit, and I am in a cough here. I just got to let it rip here, guys. Hold on. I'll be right back. Sorry, very unprofessional, of course. Attention class, old man Dutch is coughing into the microphone in a late night update that he thought he could just wing on. Okay, no problem. Hey, Duchess? Hey, do we have any chamomile tea of any kind maybe brewing up in the other room? I appreciate that, darling. Yes, guys. Okay, this is the way it goes, man. All right. Welcome to the unprofessional laboratories of Dutch Sense. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so here's the stairs. Let's see what the comments are saying. Let's see what everybody else has to say about this shenanigans here. What do you have to say for yourselves, people in chat room? It's scrolling by here on the right or left-hand side of the screen this time. Somebody's like, cough tube bongs away. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. What are you, in one of those legal states? What are you, in Oregon? Hey, get out your pipe and... What are you, damn hippie? You guys are all hippies. I knew it. The amount of Birkenstocks and patchouli oil in this chat room is overwhelming at this point. Hey, you in the back, stop smoking. I'm going to report you to the principal. I'm going to call your parents. Pay attention, kids. Damn Zoomers. All right. Okay, so Cayman Islands. See what happens? See what happens when we get sidetracked, guys? Okay, a 4.4 earthquake struck right in the middle of the warned area at Cayman Islands. Direct earthquake forecast hit. Anybody who said earthquake couldn't be forecast, and it's not like Cayman Islands gets hit all the time. It gets hit a few times a year. All right, so what's going on? Energy's going across the middle of the Caribbean, and it's heading all the way over to the east where we expect something to hit over at Puerto Rico. Now, already we're swarming in Puerto Rico, and zooming in on the spot where we have the warning going is between these two clusters of earthquakes. The western coast of Puerto Rico, right next to where the swarm is, basically. So we're moving in a swarm. We have a 4.4 coming across on the stair-step fracture zone. Energy is still coming in from the west over along Mexico's coast. So over here, stack of earthquakes going along the coast, and a few eruptions as well. And it's all in the 4 range, so we can add all these 4s up, or well, hold on, a 4.9. Let's just call it a 5. So we have a 5 plus a bunch of other 4s. That might take it up to a 5.1's worth of energy. Adding in the other eruptions at Fuego and Popocatépetl, then we're talking about maybe 5.2 to 5.3 worth of energy put into the system. We already talked about that yesterday. That's why I issued the warning for 5.0 activity to be coming in to Puerto Rico. We have a terremoto warning. Terremoto means earthquake in Spanish. Terremoto 5.0. What's that? I need to learn my Spanish numerals. Dos, tres, cuatro. Seis. Seis? No. Cringe. All right, moving on. A 5 is coming in. Put that through the translator. All right, now let's get into the continental United States. Talking about Canada, people were asking me, why don't I cover Canada? Well, you know what? Canada needs to update their feeds and make a, modern earthquake feed that isn't 30 days, but let's just go turn on the Canadian 30-day feed and see what comes on, if anything. Canadian 30-day feed. Turn it on for full 30 days. I'm not seeing anything on the 30-day feed for 2.5. Let's turn on the 0.0 30-day feed. See if that works. I want to show my Canadian viewers why I don't cover the earthquakes in Canada much. And they're small usually. If they're big enough, above 4.5, the USGS is supposedly supposed to cover them, or they claim to. So now looking at the 30-day feed, again, nothing's populated for NR Canada, Natural Resources of Canada. Let's give them one final shot and go look at their 4.5 plus earthquake feed. Ah, thank you, Duchess.
You're welcome.
Ah, yes. Chamomile tea, guys. Calming. I need to calm down. There we go. Now, waiting for it to populate still, I'm just dismayed to see that the small earthquake feed for Canada is not working, and no earthquake feed is working, the one that's provided in Earthquake 3D, which should have been sufficient. So that's why I don't cover NR Canada. Now, we could branch off and go over to their website, I suppose. Let's do that. NR Canada. So boring. So hard to do. So legacy, 1999. There we go. Earthquakes Canada, NR Canada, gc.ca. Look at that. Look at that address. Look, guys. Look. I don't know what to tell you. On this thing called the internet, we have a thing called domains that you can buy the name on. And when you control it with the government, you can make it anything you want. So you could make it easy if you wanted to. Let's go click on recent earthquakes. Get your Molsons. Let's go to 2020, see what's going on. 11/22 was the last reported quake of any significance by them. I mean, is this right? Hold on. Let's do that again. Earthquakes Canada. Recent earthquakes. Search the earthquake database within the past month. I mean, which one do we click on here? Date? I mean, we have to search by the date? Here's the map, right? So this is showing us the earthquakes over the last... Yeah, again, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Look at the dates on here. Today's the 25th, right? So you're reporting it like an earthquake yesterday. A 1 yesterday. Just one earthquake. Wait, more than that. That's the end of the day. I mean, just one on the 25th, two on the 25th. Two on the 25th. Like 7. You're reporting like 7 earthquakes. It's, again, I just want to prove to my Canadian viewers that they're not reporting, or you don't have any seismic activity going on. Which is it? Along the most active seismic zone in the Northwest, you only have a few earthquakes. Okay? But I doubt that. I don't believe that. It's just that's what I would have to show you, and I have to go to their website to do it because the feed doesn't work. That all being said, let's go turn on the USGS last day 0.0 and greater in the United States, which is a miracle that it even does work. It's a miracle any of this works, guys, for crying out loud. I thought we were in the future. Now, here we are in the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to start up here in Washington State. We're going to work our way down through Oregon, where we do have an earthquake, I think, reported. I don't know if that's a quake or what it is. It's registering a magnitude. We'll go down into California and work our way all the way over to the East Coast. But before we do that, we need to start up in the Northwest and look at something else that's not technically earthquakes at all, which is the tremor slow slip. Is it still moving at all? Any vibration at all? You know, they said it stopped like a week ago in like some kind of official statement. So for today, they don't have anything listed. Let's go back to yesterday. 78. Okay, 78. Most are centered in Oregon. So right at the Oregon border with Washington, southwest Oregon, and Oregon's border with California down to the south. Let's go back to the day before. There's 58. And again, they're centered in Oregon. And make note of where they are centered. Right next to Medford, north of Medford, south of Eugene. Now, out here in the ocean, there's something that looks like a giant arrow pointing into the spot that's shifting. Let me show it to you on the USGS map here. So like a giant arrow pointing into the spot that's shifting on land. That's the broken edge of the Pacific Plate that butts up into the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. There's some kind of seismic tension, if you will, a power transfer point that comes in from these jagged edges and pushes in and up into North America. This is down below this. Think of this like the side of a bathtub. Think of this like the slope going down the bathtub to the bottom that levels out somewhat and goes over flat. And the broken edges are on the bottom base, but they're pushing up into the side. And the energy is coming up into North America at an angle. And then we're getting these little red dots. These little red dots are the vibrations as the plate is shifting. North America versus the Pacific Plate versus the Juan de Fuca fracture zone in the middle. Now you'll notice there's a bunch of magnitudes assigned to these. Zeros, ones, a few twos maybe even in there. But they're not really earthquakes. They're vibrations as the plate shifts. So for today, we don't have any reported yet, and I don't know if that's going to be completely zero. We should never go down to zero completely. The plate should never stop shifting completely. If it did, we'd all die. If the planet stopped shifting and everything, we're all dead. So we don't want it to stop. If it goes down to zero, that's a technical outage or something. There should always be a few. But what we look for is for these hundreds of tremors that happen on a daily basis when the plate is slipping, slow slipping, ETSing, episodic tremor slipping. It can do a few hundred to even a few thousand in a day's time when the plate is starting to really shift. Now, when it drops off and it gets down low like this, getting down into the hundreds, then we start thinking that the slow slip is slowing down, that the plate is stopping shifting or slowing down shifting. It's not fully stopping. It will never fully stop. Now, we'll see it go down to a point where it gets down to like 5 and 10 tremors. Right now, there's 78. And I've told everybody this for the last several years, for like the last 8 years, I think I've said this, that when it gets down into that single-digit range where there's hardly any shifting going on, I watch it for several days, and when it gets to that point, that's when I consider the slow slip ETS to be stopping, quote-unquote, for a little bit. And when it stops for a little bit, or when it slows down to the point where it looks like it's stopping, that's when we watch for the big release to happen, the combined total of the thousands of tremors that have happened over the last month and a half, 2 months of shifting on the plate. And in the past, we've seen it shift across Vancouver Island and North Washington, and seen a 7.7 range quake strike up here at the Queen Charlotte Sound at the Hecate Strait. That was in 2012, the same day that Hurricane Sandy, Frankenstorm, was making landfall on the East Coast for the first time, the first landfall. That same day, I think it was like Halloween, right? It was right around Halloween. It was like October 30th, October 31st. A 7.7 earthquake struck, same time frame. The mainstream media barely even covered it. There was a tsunami and everything that happened up here in 2012 when Vancouver and North Washington shifted for about a month. Well, now we've moved from Vancouver mainly across Washington and Oregon and down into North California. So the two perimeters, Vancouver Island to the north and North California to the south, those shifted minorly with hundreds of tremors, and the thousands of tremors took place across Washington and Oregon. And it's now winding down. That's a better way to put it. Winding down. It doesn't stop, like I said. So with all these little red dots happening here, and it's still going on as of yesterday, 78, if it drops off today, I would watch for the next several days, and if it keeps dropping off, next to nothing, then we watch for our big one out off the coast, out in the ocean. And we don't just watch anywhere in the ocean. We watch along the edge of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone on the north side, usually, tends to break. But the south side is Eureka. Let me show it to you this way. There's two sides on this, really. North side and south side. North side up here, Queen Charlotte Sound, I just told you about, broke in 2012 when all this shifted right here. Now we shifted further down the south. Well, that's preferencing to the south, and look where it goes down to the south. The Juan de Fuca fracture zone forms and goes down into the San Andreas Fault. So we would watch on the south side, and guess what's shifting as of yesterday? Southwest Oregon, right here, where the arrow's pointing in. Also, a new earthquake has struck here in the last day, today, 2.9, 3.0 earthquake, right in the middle of it. So we've got vibrating and shifting here across Southwest Oregon, North California, but mainly Oregon. This is the arrow pointing into it. A new 3.0 range earthquake, 2.9, struck right next to it. What about this 1.5? Let's go see what's going on there. Uh-oh. We got ourselves an explosion out here. Now, there were a bunch of hot spots. You guys know about those? These hot spots have started to show up out here in earnest across Oregon only. I mean, it did go down into California slightly, right across the border, and it did go slightly up into Washington too, but it was mainly just Oregon. Let me show it to you. See if it's still there today. Let's go over on the shortwave infrared and just rewind it and see. Yeah, okay, you can see a few of them today here. So we have these little black dots that appear here on the screen. And those black dots, here, look, there's a couple up here by the coast. They were all across the state the other day. Now today you can't really see much. There's a lot of cloud cover. But they're popping on and off. They go on for like 5 minutes and pop off. It's not like people are out there setting fires and they're popping off right in the area where it's shifting, where the little red dots are. Southwest Oregon. So something's going on with the hotspots there. It's shifting and releasing heat of some kind, or electromagnetics is playing into power lines across the area. Now we could go down and look, try and find out if there are any power lines there. I should have the hotspots here on the map, actually. So it should be pretty easy to find the locations that are having the hotspots. Yeah, we have at least one right here. Look, one more time. Grants Pass, there's Medford. And Medford I just showed you with all the red dots and the tremors. Now here's a red dot and a hot spot. We also have the earthquake right out in the ocean. It's got to be related. So the plate shifting, piezoelectric energy. Basically electrical discharge, guys, coming up out of the crust. Now I'm looking for any kind of high voltage power lines here nearby. We would want to see those because otherwise it would be some kind of methane burst or heat coming up out of the plate. At least if it was some kind of heat signature from electrical lines, then we wouldn't worry so much about volcanism and the other culprits. But I'm not seeing that. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't see anything though. I see clear cuts over to the east, but I don't see them here. Oh wait, going along the top of this, we got a road. Usually with the roads, they're going to some kind of tower or some kind of... But could just be clear cut. Sure is. Nothing else there of any significance. That would lean to the plate shifting, guys. And we have a hot spot there, and it's showing up again. We can see it on weather satellite here. And hopefully you guys can see this with me. And this isn't even a full close-up view. I can go in closer so people who are on their phones might be able to see this too. Yeah, there we go. So if you're on your phone, you might now even be able to see our distinct clusters of hotspots that just come on and go off in 5 minutes time. And they're like a few acres wide. So you can't tell me it's just some farmer burning a field out. Oh, by the way, there's no fields there to burn. That's pine forest. And they're not doing any burning like that with all the control burns that got postponed because of the fire threat out there. They said they were not going to do them for like 2 years or something. They said they were not going to do any burns. So, and then we get down into California and there's like nada. There's just jack squat. Let's go see what's going on in California before I say there's nothing, right? Oh, wait. Wow. Hold on. Look at this. California in the Valley now has a whole bunch of activity going on, hotspot-wise. And that's at West Butte Volcano. That is right there in the middle of the valley. This is the tip of the valley here, and we go down to the south. Just as a reference, here's the coastline of California. I can show you what's there on Google Earth here. Oh, look, they're even marked in red here, so it makes it easy to find. These are the most current hotspots from GOES. 976 Kelvin. So what is that, like 1,000 degrees or something? Sutter Buttes, marked by the Smithsonian here. And starting on the side of Sutter Buttes, we have geothermal, oil, and gas pumping drill points where they're getting all three. Oil, gas, and geothermal. So I guess it's some kind of hot, steamy gas oil mix. And it's on the side of this volcano. And then they go down to the south, all the pumping ops, go across the farm field, and go up to the north, up here. Let me see if I can find some. Yeah. Right here. Down into the middle of these fields where they're just doing more of the same. Oil, gas, and thermal. And that's where our hotspot is. That's where our hotspots are. So something's going on there. Now, again, could it be from the plate shifting? Yeah, I think so. So this explosion here, getting back to the original lookup on that, this quote-unquote earthquake explosion. I'm not seeing anything there at all. So why would they have an explosion there of some kind? Who would be out in the middle of a pine forest blowing something up for no reason with no road or anything for miles around? And to put it in perspective, a 1.5 earthquake, we have quarries around the rest of the country. You'll notice there are no quarry blasts across the rest of the country. So that can't be a quarry blast. So what's going on with the explosion right next to where we're shifting? Obviously, there's something related between them. Or maybe not obviously, but I think there's something related between them. Now let's go up to the north. Let's go look up the 0.8 at Ashford, Washington, and go see what's there. Now, I already know what's there. My viewers already know what's there if you're a longtime viewer at Ashford. But this is for the new people. We're going to drive home a point. We're grabbing the first earthquake up here in Washington and look where it takes us. Right below the crater of Mount Rainier. And I didn't just cherry pick that. Look, it's quite literally the first earthquake here in Washington. We have one up to the north, that's at a quarry. Explosion at a quarry blast, or quarry location. And then down in the Puget Sound, that's technically in Canada, Victoria. So the first Washington quake is at Mount Rainier, right below the crater. We go down here to the south, let's go pull the 1.4. Castle Rock, Washington. And get the coordinates here. So we're going from Mount Rainier. One more time, we are right below the crater of Mount Rainier. So there's something going on, volcanically speaking, where the volcanoes are being perturbed as this inundating force comes into the plate. The plate's shifting. It's charging the plate with this seismic force, quote unquote, which then spreads out across the plate, causes explosions, hot spots, the volcanoes to start move, the magma chambers start to shift a little bit, I think, rise. Look, our other earthquake is bringing us in down next to Mount St. Helens, right on the flanks of it, north by northwest at Castle Rock. That's where the 1.4 is. Okay. Over to the east, we have a 3.7 earthquake. It's almost 4.0, and it was a 4. They downgraded and downgraded and downgraded. Stanley, Idaho, yet again. And this location is above the magma chamber for Yellowstone, which is over here at the surface at Wyoming, Yellowstone Park. But the magma chamber extends 30 kilometers down at an angle, and it's 11 Grand Canyons in size, reaching below Idaho, and the feeder going below Oregon. So this is the center, if you look at it three-dimensionally. And they have it three-dimensionally imaged, so you guys can go look this up if you need to. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I haven't shown it in a while. Let's go look it up. Yellowstone. Oh, boy. University. I'm going on memory. Of Montana. 11 Grand Canyon. That should hopefully bring it up. Let's see if we can find the... Is it University of Wyoming? Or is it University of Idaho? Oh, no. No, this is like the most unintelligent... Okay, hold on. We might still have... Okay, this is a two-dimensional representation of what I'm looking for. Dang. That's annoying. Bing sucks. Okay, but 2D is better than nothing. I'll go over to Google in a second to go find the 3D version, but this is great to look at it just from an underground perspective. So here's Yellowstone, right? You might go inside the park, and it comes right up to the surface where we have our domes and all the geyser activity. Now look where the Snake River Plain is. Do you see that? Let me show you where the Snake River Plain actually is. Here's Yellowstone, which has hotspots in it. Uh-oh. Hotspots in Yellowstone, guys. Hold on. We'll go look those up in 1 second. But the Snake River Plain is right here. It's this crescent shape with all the other volcanoes in it and the lava flows. These are lava flows like craters of the moon. You can go camp here. I camped here. It was awesome. Go up here. Do it. You drive in the park right here. Ranger station's right there. Campground's right there. And this is crowded. This is crowded right there. Like, nobody. And it's lava flows as far as the eye can see. You camp there. It's awesome. Anyway. And you are on the foot of these volcanoes. You drive in. And these are volcanoes across the road, too. All these. You can get out. They got pools there. It's incredible. Anyway. So this is the Snake River Plain in Idaho. And look where the deepest part of the magma chamber goes. The magma chamber goes below the Snake River Plain. And then the feeder for it, the hotspot plume, see, it keeps going over to the west. Well, if we go west of the Snake River Plain to the southwest, again, direction is southwest. If we go southwest from Yellowstone down through the Snake River Plain, that takes us down to here, which is at the border of Oregon, where all of our other volcanoes are, by the way, so it's no shock. And then this up here, this, which is, I think, a remnant of an ancient crater myself, or a caldera. But I'm interested in these hotspots in the middle of the caldera here at Yellowstone, or right outside of the park, right next to the park. Here's Lake Yellowstone itself. 2 hotspots. Low probability fire pixels out here in the middle of nowhere. What do we have? Please tell me we have something here of significance that's going to lead to the hotspot, because I do not want to have to worry about this. There's an earthquake swarm happening here. We've got a bridge. Well, before we go any further, we have an earthquake swarm happening in Yellowstone. So this is a change from where we were. We have a 3.7 to near 4.0 earthquake. We have an earthquake swarm going on in Yellowstone, and the biggest we went is 3.1. Technically, they have it in Montana, but come on, it's Yellowstone. Now this new hotspot here. We are next to a lake, which is even more odd. I wonder if they have any kind of power generation going on here. Well, that's a weird way to do it, wouldn't you say? Okay. Don't know what I'm looking at there. But no power generation going on from this giant lake of any kind. Okay, so they've got a bridge coming out of here. Do we have any kind of geothermal or anything else nearby that could be leading to the cause of the hotspot? I mean, I'm looking for any possible cause, guys. Because if this is just a random hotspot popping up out here in the middle of Yellowstone's caldera at the same time that we have an earthquake swarm, I don't buy into random. I just don't. Sorry. I've been through too much and seen too much to have it be random. I mean, what do you think? Somebody's out here on a mountaintop detonating? Didn't it just snow up there? I think it did. I think it just snowed up there. You know what? Let's go look. Inquiring minds want to know. Let's go up into Yellowstone now. localized sectors, sub-regional sectors, up into Wyoming. There's the state of Wyoming. Wyoming? Oh, okay, sorry. So now, yeah, look, the blue on the ground is snow. Blue on the ground is snow. You can see it there. Let's go in on a very zoomed in scale here. Okay, here's the state of Wyoming. There's the snow. Okay, so that settles it as to whether or not there's any kind of moisture up there. But what I need to see now is the hot spots from shortwave. Is it showing? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's showing up. Certainly is. And look, it's showing up pretty much when it's clear. It's not. That's not stormy. That's like snowy. Here, we can look at this visible again. Hold on. Let's go in and look visible. Yeah, look at that. I mean, that's like clear day, basically. Well, I mean, it's cloudy, but... So it snowed the night before. Here we are, and suddenly we have... But you can't see it. There's no smoke. Look, there's no smoke. Zero. Zilch. None. Do you guys see any smoke? I don't see any smoke. Maybe I need to zoom in closer before I say there's no smoke. There might be, right at the end, right here, a little trail of smoke. Maybe that's, I have to look close. That is just the tiniest trail of smoke, but right about there, actually, we get an orangish glow. I'm going to go over and turn on the shortwave infrared to bring it up on the same frame. Yeah, you can definitely see it on infrared right there, really good. So I don't know what to make of it other than we have hotspots now showing up inside of Yellowstone. At the same time, we have a swarm taking place inside of Yellowstone. At the same time, we have a 4.0 earthquake, or near 4, 3.7, above the magma chamber at Yellowstone. At the same time, the plate starts to slow down in slow slipping. At the same time, we have Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens getting hit. We have an explosion out here, unjustified explosion. A 3.0 on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. I haven't even covered what's down here in California yet, except for the hotspots, which are in Northern California, next to Sutter Butte's East and West Butte volcano, at the pumping operations that are there next to the volcano, which are right here. So California's got hotspots, and I know they have specific warnings going on about burning and fire out there that they're not supposed to. Okay. Let's go on over to the east portion of Northern California and go look up the 0.7 at Plumas, Eureka. What? Historical. I don't understand. I don't understand. Is this a historical earthquake? Or is this the historical location? I don't get it. I've never seen that on the USGS before. Let's go put the coordinates in. First time for everything. Okay, so we're at Plumas, Eureka. Historical. Is that like a historical town, maybe? Maybe there's nothing there. There's no town there. That's so odd. Okay, we are on the side of our giant oval. And I've shown this shape, which I think is a caldera in its own right. There's no documentation I can find on it, but that also doesn't mean there is no documentation on it. I just can't find anything. This, between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. It's lined with volcanoes. It gets hit with earthquakes around the outside edge and in the middle. And we also have hot spots and fires, which have broken out around the outside edge and in the middle. So right now, 0.7, west side of the oval shape. Is there anything else that we need to see? Let's just, again, search really quick around the area, see if there's anything else poking up around. Now, lately, I've been looking for the high voltage transmission lines, the power lines, which certainly have earthquakes striking next to them. I'll tell you something before the end of this broadcast about something I found overseas, by the way. Well, that's a little odd. Look at that parking area we've got right there. What? What is going on there? Got a parking lot back in the middle of the woods. What is that? Get Alex Jones out there. Dark secrets from inside the volcano zone. All right. So now we go down to the South by Southwest. Now, speaking of the area, right? Man, oh boy, I'm getting, I'm starting to get a little hot. It's not from the tea either. Ah, boy, okay. Where are we going? We're going to Geysers, California. Geyserville. North of San Francisco, out in the Redwood Forest. Oh, some people are going to get those jokes. Others aren't. Don't ask. Kids, don't ask. Here we are. We've got a bunch of geothermal turbines that are tied to pipelines, and the pipelines go to drill points, and the drill points go down a few hundred to a few thousand feet on the side of Clear Lake Volcanic Field. They're getting the steam to turn the turbines by injecting sewage to dispose of the human sewage, like from your house, and the steam comes up and turns the turbines. It's a miracle. Modern ingenuity. So down to the east by southeast we go, and we go through the Bay Area, and we're south of Mount Diablo on the Hayward Fault still. I believe this is still the Hayward Fault at Alum Rock. The name, now, I don't know. Might be tied to ancient volcanism there. Let's zoom in and see how close we are to Mount Diablo. Mount Diablo is on the north side. The faults go down to the south. Wait, do we have the faults turned on? Let's turn on the faults. There. The thin red lines. They go down to the south and meet up with the thick red line. The thick red line is the San Andreas, and we have the Hayward Fault going up into San Francisco. That's where the 1.0 is. The 1.4 and 1.9 are on the San Andreas creeping section, but it's just such the slight little movement compared to what's going on up to the north and over to the east. Like I said, near 4.0 activity up in Idaho, a swarm going up to 3.0 range in Yellowstone, hot spots appearing. The plate is still technically shifting. The volcanoes are moving, and we have an explosion in the middle of all of it in Oregon. But then we get down into California. It's just a trickle out down here, down to geysers. It's all zeros, maybe a couple ones. But think of this like a low snare drum roll going on in Northern California right now. So a snare drum rolling. We have not hit a bass drum yet, and we could certainly pick up the tempo of the snare drum roll too. So it's starting. It's starting to snare drum roll with a bunch of small earthquakes. That's going to increase in magnitude, so we'll go from zeros to ones to twos. Then we'll start seeing a flurry of threes, and this should all start taking place very soon once the plate releases its energy. The slow slip releases. But like I said, earthquakes accompany that out in the ocean. So it should be twofold. Earthquake out in the ocean of significant size and increase going down across California. And the magnitudes should correspond to what strikes out in the ocean. In other words, the bigger the earthquake is here, out in the ocean, the bigger the earthquakes are down into California and across the plate. So what size? In the past, we saw, for instance, in 2012, when the 7.7 earthquake struck up here, within the next week after, I think it was a week, maybe it was 10 days or 2 weeks, but it was about a week later, we saw major activity come down into California. I think it flared up into the 5 range. As a matter of fact, maybe I could go look it up here really quick. It would have been November 2012, California earthquake. Let's see what comes up. If anything, I think it was. Was it a month later? That's from the 2012 movie. Oh, man, I'd have to go look it up. And really, it was like, I want to say it was in the 5 range, so I don't even know if it's going to make the list, right? It's not going to even make the list. Look at their list. They're only covering 6s and 7s. Jeez. With like 5.8s. All right, let's go look it up on the USGS site some other day. You guys can look it up. Man, I'm curious now. I kind of want to go over to their site and go do a 2012 past search. But that's going to get into a whole egghead experience that's going to drive away 1,000 new viewers. So let's carry on. Down here in California, we've dropped off. We're going to expect an increase. I would expect it to go up into possibly into the 6-ish range with this slow slip, since it's only been going on for about a month and a half, and it's only been in 2 states. The number of tremors has only been in the thousands, low-end thousands, not high-end thousands. It's not a big slow slip. So it should be in the 6 range that strikes out in the ocean. But I'm still waiting. We have not seen anything of any significance get reported out here at all in months. Years, really, but certainly in months, nothing of any significance out here. What do they report, like a 3? Nothing. Now, the earthquakes are striking there. We're getting 4s and 5s every few months out here. They just don't report them to the public. They think you guys are going to panic. I'm not joking. So we might get the report, we might not. It depends on how big the earthquake is. Down across California and Nevada's border, we're here at Long Valley Caldera, which is the supervolcano caldera at the California-Nevada border with 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt down below it. It's the confirmed supervolcano here. And the earthquakes are right down here, sort of in the middle, right next to the highway and the airport, right across the highway. We've got geothermal turbines and drill points where humans drilled in to get steam. They did not know that it was a supervolcano when they drilled in many years ago to get the steam. They now know, due to Earth-penetrating tomography measurements, basically bouncing waves off the inside of the magma chamber, that it's 1,000 cubic kilometers of melt, classifying it in that supervolcano range. Going across the border, we're at Mono Lake Volcanic Field, right along the border of California and Nevada. Then we jump over into Nevada, and we have a line of earthquakes again, going pretty much southwest to northeast, butting into the back end of our arrow. And all 3 of these locations are volcanic directly. So let me show you. We're leaving the supervolcano here. We're going right up to the border. Oh, I guess I need to turn the borders back on, don't I? Here's the border. Earthquakes right here at the border. We're on the east side of Mono Lake Volcanic Field. We jump right across and we go over to the Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Center, where a line of earthquakes is going southwest to northeast across here, and a surface fissure fracture formed. A 12-mile-long break in the ground, and a 6.5 earthquake. Happened this past year, right here. And it hasn't stopped. It's been going for like 6 months straight since the earthquake. But the line ultimately points over to the arrow. And the flow follows the arrow for the most part, at least on the south side, over into Utah. And going across Nevada, for instance, we have a few small earthquakes. They're all about the same size. Make note of that. 1.3, 1.3, and another 1.2 to 1.3 over in Utah. The only others are 2 small microquakes down here in the middle of nowhere, out at a place called Indian Springs, Nevada. And what's there? What's in Nevada? Nevada? Indian Springs. Nevada? I always like to say Nevada because it just sounds so much more upbeat. My Nevadans appreciate it. So here we are, Lathrop Wells Cone, but I do recall this location being called Doomtown. Operation Rise Line. They have a little place mark here I think I can click on. Yeah, there we go. Doomtown. The town too tough to die. The original effects test area and close cousin to Survival Town 1 and 2, and the town in the 3rd Indiana Jones movie. Indiana Jones climbs into the refrigerator to protect himself from a nuke. Don't do that, kids. Don't even try it. U.S. nuke Operation Hermosa, 150 kilotons, April 2nd, 1985. Just one detonation out of hundreds across that valley. The amount of man-made faulting going on here is insane. Each one of those underground tests is going to create a few small faults of their own. And you put hundreds of them in a valley, and it's not just that valley. It goes up here where we let the Europeans, we let the dang Brits come over here and do nuke tests in conjunction with us. Let me see if I can find some of these British tests here. Hold on. We've got a few. I know there's a few here. Hey, wait. There it is. No? There it is. UK. Praetorian Gibney. April 25th, 1982. 89 kilotons. Damn Brits. Damn Brits. You owe us something now, man. I'm going to call this due someday. Boris, get me Boris on the phone. All right, we're at the nuke test sites here, and we're going to go up to the east-northeast. Alamo, Nevada. Out in the Alamo. 0.0 kilometer depth. Right at the surface, but it's not a quarry blast or an explosion. It's just a surface earthquake. But wait, hold on. Hold on just a second. What do we have right here? We got a road? Some kind going through the middle of the desert. Or a road out there in the middle of nowhere. A river basin. Range 61 volcanic buttes also here. Open desert that goes up to the north. Oh wait, what's this right here? This is Area 51. This is the Groom Lake Test Facility. Please fire up the X-Files music at this point. I'm like the USGS's Mulder. They'll like put me down in the basement of the USGS and like flick pennies at me, and I'll put up my poster and it says, "I want to believe," and it'll have like a picture of a seismograph. Oh my goodness, we're having fun now, aren't we, guys? Let's go over to the east and go over to this 1.3. Pine Valley, Utah. 7.5 kilometer depth. So far, I'm seeing a connection between all of these. They're all at weak points in the crust that are being saturated. The crust is being saturated by some kind of seismic force that then is releasing with these earthquakes at the weak points. It's sorting out and finding the weak points as the force spreads out across the plate, or the power spreads out across the plate. This right here. You see it? Hold on. There we go. This right here. Now, I don't have the place marks for this, but you guys can go look it up. Let's see. Utah, Big Point, Utah. That's your homework for tonight. Go look this up. This is, and this you don't have to take my word for it, this is the remnant of an ancient caldera. I don't have the place marks for it. Don't know the name of it. Doesn't really matter. It goes back to like I want to say the Jurassic period. It goes back so far. It's so ancient. And it's surprised that it's even still visible here. But all around it are, maybe it's because of the desert-like nature here, but all around it we have smaller volcanoes like the Santa Clara volcanic cone, for instance. We'll zoom in on this. So here's the cone, right? We have smaller cone volcanoes all the way around the outside edge of it, and these are lava flows that come off from it. So for instance, right here, this plateau, this is an ancient lava flow. No doubt about it. We can come right in on the edge and see the black basalt that makes up that flow. It's covered in sand. It's really old. Look how big it is. And look where it goes. It goes out into basically what we might think of like the Grand Canyon almost, right? Even though it's not the Grand Canyon. But I mean, it just like topography-wise, it looks like the Grand Canyon. Amazing, right? Okay. That's where the earthquake is over here at the 1.3. So the 1.3, the 1.3 are tied together. It's the same size energy going across. Now we go all the way up here into central Utah to a 1.2 to 1.3. And see how it just says 1.2, Utah. Doesn't give you triangulated coordinates. Doesn't give you a name. It's like somebody just said, there's an earthquake in Utah. Don't look. Now, if somebody else saw that, they might just overlook it. But when I see something like that, I get suspicious. I want to go look it up. See what's there. Why are they not giving us proper coordinates like they normally would for any other earthquake? Why would they try and hide? Oh, wait. Do you see it? I got a place mark there. This is where our oil pumping operations start in earnest. Let me zoom in and show you. See where it says oil? There's our jack. You can see hopefully you can see the black shadow on the jack here. It's like a sundial. You can kind of see it. It looks like but that's the oil, okay? So we have pipelines, and we have tanks, and we have pumps and jacks, and they go out to other tanks, pumps, pipelines, and jacks. And this is where our oil pumping operations start in earnest. I don't know if every pad has them. These 3 pads don't, but this pad does. It's got a little substation with the pipelines there and another set of tanks. And this pad has something. Whoops. There it is. All right, I take the time to show that to you because the earthquake is coming in right next to where the drill points start. And there may be further drill points that they've done in the past few years, down here further to the south, for instance, down by Emory and over to the west, right along the county line here. This imagery is 4 years old. And we have to wait for them to update the flyover. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were more. Let's just put it that way. I mean, where there's one, there's more. And let me show you something else. We start there. We go up to here, and once we get up to here and across the north part of the valley, we get into the hundreds of wells. Okay? And you can see how many there are on the ground here, just in this little clear cut on this hillside. And you see they go through the towns. Well, there's only a couple little towns even there. And they carry on up to the north through the valley. And they keep going through the mountains. Let me find it. Before I say they keep going through the mountains, let me find the wells. There we go. They go through the mountains. And they come out on the other side of the mountains over here with thousands. So we go from just a few to hundreds to thousands. And every one of these in the mountains here is a different drill point. Okay? And then we go from thousands in the mountains here to what I would think overall are tens of thousands, because every single one of these is a different drill point. And do you see how many there are here? They look like sand dunes in the mountains. Every one of them. So we go from singles to hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands. So can you see why they wouldn't want you to start zooming in on this area and start looking around? So hence, triangulated Utah. All right? Let you know what we're up against when it comes to truth and science. But hey, it's pesky, and they're paying the bills. So we're not here to go off on the oil companies, because guess what? Weak points get hit in the crust. Whether you drill, whether Mother Nature punches up from underneath, and guess what? Before humans drilled, energy used to come over, pass over all of this on the edge of the craton, naturally speaking, flow across the craton, and get stuck on the New Madrid seismic zone, and break there on the New Madrid, right on the most populated point in the Midwest of the United States. So it could very well be that while they screwed everything up with the drilling, that maybe God had other plans kind of thing, and it actually is working out to our benefit to somewhat, that it's breaking at these points where they've drilled kind of like perforation points along something that's already broken, and you're relieving stress going across it. Okay, so I just proved to you that earthquakes are striking at the volcanoes along California, going over to the geothermal drill points, etc., then going down to the nuke test sites, then going up across. Again, we're going across several different locations that are all volcanic in question, and then up to the drill points. The only spot that I didn't look up was up here, the 0.8, South Salt Lake. And that takes us in south of the tailing ponds, where they have the deep, whoa, what was that? Where they have the deep earth bunkers. I just heard something in the other room, a cat of some kind doing something. Okay, so down here in Ridgecrest, the number of earthquakes has dropped off. The frequency has decreased. Remember the snare drum analogy that I used up here to the north? The rolling snare drum. And it's reached down here, a little bit of a roll of a snare drum there too, but it's not much. We're going to see that go up big time. But down here, it's gone down. Now it's just a slight beat of a drum. And they've been going for a year and a half since the biggest earthquake in 20 years, since the 7.0 earthquake struck here. Biggest earthquake in 20 years in all of California. And it's still moving today. But the number of earthquakes is low. The flow has been cut off. The locations that are moving are the same that are moving every single day. Coso Junction, which is a volcanic field, going down to the lava mountains. And that's at the Garlock Fault Zone, the lava mountains. Let me show you and prove it to you. We're going from another set of volcanoes that have been drilled down to another set of volcanoes. So we're just jumping from volcano to volcano, basically, and drill point to drill point. Proving again that the plate is sorting this out naturally to the weak points. And the weak points can be traced, and we can forecast based upon that. It's like a road. So we start at the drill points here, at Coso Volcanic Field. Here's the coordinates. Here are the rising domes. These rise up with magma pushing up from underneath. And right on the side of it, Devil's Kitchen geothermal pumping operation, where they're drilling in and getting steam to turn the turbines to provide the electrical power for the area. Diagonal line of quakes going on the east side of all these lava flows at Volcano Peak. And it's impressive looking. It really is. Look at all the lava flows coming off that going down into China Lake. And that's the path the earthquakes are taking on the backside of the lava flows. Going down and dead-ending into the lava mountains at the Garlock Fault. Down here. Lava mountains. And going back to the USGS map here really quick. This is the Garlock Fault. Notice which way it goes in relation to all the others. Do you see that? So the only spot that we really have a good east to west facing fault is pretty much back all the way up here. You could say coming in from the Pacific on the San Andreas and maybe over here at the Nevada, North California border region. They're kind of going east and west a little bit. But as far as I can see, there's only a few going east, a few big faults going east and west. And this is one of them. And it's right down here, of course, in Southern California, where the South Valley comes down and makes a U-shaped bend. The San Andreas comes down and meets up with it. And our earthquakes match that. Coming down the creeping section of the San Andreas, they jump over into the valley, down at the south tip, at the Garlock. So some energy does come in and go down across into the valley. Right now, the flow has been cut off. I would expect a big increase in the next few days. When I say few days, I mean it. So it's like 3 days. So let's just say 26, 27, 28, 29. Like the next 3, maybe 4 days, we have to watch for the break to happen out in the ocean, assuming that the slow slip stops or slows down. Now let's get down into Southern California. No. Oh, hell no. All right. New earthquake just struck right down here in LA as I was getting ready to talk about moving down here into LA. When did it strike? 4:04 UTC. 7 minutes ago. Should we look it up? I mean, all right, let's go look it up. Manhattan Beach, California. Well, coordinates, paste, search. Do you know what the chances are of that? 1 in a million. To get it down to a 200 square mile area, there's 200 million square miles on the planet. So if I get it down to a 200 square mile area out of 200 million, just do the math. 1 in a million. All right, there's the earthquake epicenter, and it's coming off right off the coast. Oh, wait. Do we have anything of any significance here? Hold on. Looks like we have some kind of undersea canyon of some kind. Wait, I need to consult the fault zone map. Let's go see if we have a fault zone marked here. Oh, we sure do. Do we have a name on it? It's east of Santa Monica? Or Santa Cruz, I mean. Okay. Somewhere right down in here. Palos Verdes or what? Anacapa Doom Fault? Santa Monica Fault? Oh boy, Redondo Beach Fault? Those are some pretty creative names considering that's where they go. So this is probably the Redondo Beach Fault. If that's Redondo Beach and this is Redondo Canyon, then we have our Redondo Beach Fault here. But where does it go to? It goes out into the ocean, connects out into the basin. Does that connect into any other faults to the west? Now, they don't have any marked, of course. But you can kind of see they do. I mean, this connects here, probably down to here. They do. Santa Cruz, Catalina Ridge, Santa Cruz, Catalina Ridge. So I'm thinking this probably does connect out. We don't see it, but it would connect out into here. And that would take us back up to the other earthquake. Let's go up to the 1.4. Ojai, California. So there's nothing out in the ocean, is there? Or is there? Only the shadow knows. What about up here on land? That might be a little easier to determine what's there. We have some nice California houses. Look, everybody's got a pool. And we are right there at Miramonte. But there's something over here on the east side of Ojai and on the west side of Ojai, or southwest side. But on the east side of Ojai, we have our oil and gas pumping operations. And like all the other locations, just like I've showed you around the rest of the country, these are for drilling and getting the oil out, mostly oil, sometimes gas. But there are weak points in the plate. Now, they may have even abandoned some of these. They might not even be producing anymore. Some get capped off. They leave the pad behind. They might even leave some of the equipment there. But these are all functioning. And there's a big operation there. It doesn't just stop there. It goes, like I said, down on the southwest side, and there's just hundreds of them. And they go right down to the coast to Muscle Shoals. Here, you can see the pads as they go down to the coast. And then it picks up with the offshore rigs out here for the oil and gas. These are the offshore gas rigs. So we're right next to it. I wonder if there's any more up here on the north side. I'd have to go look around, but we always look within 6 to 10 miles. And this is like, well, let's measure. I think it's like 7 miles. Looks like 7 miles. Just a guess. 7 miles. 7.8 miles. Yeah. So we've been doing this every day for 10 years. You can start to guess mileage. All right. Now, down to the east-southeast. Finally, we have a line of earthquakes that goes across Southern California. And this is actually the easiest to explain. We're going up to near 3.0. Sound familiar? That's like the rest of the state, right? So we're going up to near 3.0. This whole state has been saturated, but it's low. The amount of earthquake activity down here also is low. The snare drum roll is slow. But the middle of the whole area is where the most activity is taking place. Anza, California, on the Anza Gap. Anza Gap, or Borrego Springs, right through here, this is a fault zone called the San Jacinto, the thin red lines. But you'll notice the thin red lines branch off the thick red line, and that's the San Andreas. And the line of earthquakes goes right down across it. This is slow slipping. I've been talking about this for like 6 years, man. I'm getting tired of talking about it. This part right here. This has been moving since I started streaming. Right after I started my live stream, like 5 or 6 years ago, a 5-point-something earthquake struck right in the middle of this, right next to Salton Sea. One of my viewers, Earthquake Chaser Jenny, I haven't seen her in years, she drove down there to go inspect to see if there was anything going on with the steam, because there's geothermal going on down there, and there's a volcano down at Salton Sea. But since then, it's been moving every day. It has not stopped once across this. And professionals announced right after the big earthquake hit that this is slow slipping across the San Jacinto. Slow slipping with tremors. Now, put on the brakes. Slow slipping with tremors. That gets us back to this up in the northwest. The slow slip tremor map in the northwest. See where the red dots are. But wait, they don't have anything down here in California. Why? Maybe they just don't cover California. Oh, wait, they do? They cover at least down to Northern California. They cover at least down to here. So why don't they cover the tremors down to the south? Because you would see a connection. And they said there was no connection. And what you would see is a bounce of red dots that goes from Vancouver down across Washington and Oregon, down into California, and down into Southern California. You'd see a corresponding back and forth between them. And they do not want you to see that. Oh my God, that puts a hole in everything that they ever said about no relation between anything. Yes, they actually said there was no relation between anything, seismically speaking, anywhere on the planet with any earthquakes. And they said that for a long time. In the past 10 years, they have now started to correct themselves. Maybe the last 15 years. The last 15 years, things have started to open up. But certainly for the first 150 years of seismic study, since the United States has been around at least, they said there was no relation between earthquakes across distances and blah, blah, blah. We're not here to conflict with the professionals. I'm just showing you what's happening. There's a line of earthquakes going across Southern California. It's on the San Jacinto, and the University of California said it was slow slipping. Let me pull it up. University of California slow slip San Jacinto. G-C-I-N-T-O? Probably not spelled like that. There it is. Tectonic tremors in Anza Gap. Spontaneous. Is this the article, though? I don't know if this is. Ambient tectonic tremors. Yes, tectonic tremors. Tremoring, slow slipping. And then they talk about the San Jacinto rupturing. There's another one. Same story. Yeah, here, even the quote. Since there is a connection between deep slow slip and damaging earthquake closer to the surface, they're talking about slow slips. They even use the term slow slip. So they said it was slow slipping. It's still slow slipping. And that's what we're looking at here with all these small earthquakes right now. Hey, look, a new earthquake just struck right in the middle of where I'm talking about. Let's go. When did this hit? At 14:16, 4 minutes ago. Cabazon, California. Getting a lot of C's in there. I don't know about all that. Let's go see where it is. Isn't this like by the military base? Hold on. Desert Hot Springs? Palm Springs? Hold on. I thought there was a military base right here. Thousand Palms. 29 Palms. Yeah, 29 Palms. Military base is right here. All right, well, we'll have to wait on that one again. Now, wait, hold on. There's something else right here. See this where it says Cherry Valley, Yucaipa, going up to this mountain up here called San Gorgonio Mountain. All of this burned when the fires first started, when that DEW, the directed energy weapon laser beam, was shooting down from space. What happened to that? Hey, what happened to the DEW? It just went away. I guess they went up and fixed the satellite. That must be what it is. Oh, wait, they didn't reprogram the satellite or anything? They didn't fly up there and adjust the mirrors? Oh, okay. I guess it just stopped magically. Did they adjust the frequency on the shortwave? We'll never know. Don't ask no pesky stinking questions, Dutch. Now let's go over to the east. Speaking of pesky stinking questions, let's go look up this 3.0 on the edge of the North American Craton at Coyanosa, Texas. Right on the edge of the Craton. And man, this is going to lead to more questions, unfortunately. Imagine my shock 10 years ago. Almost exactly 10 years ago. I started in December of 2010 making videos. But 10 years ago, zooming in on an earthquake and finding something like this at the earthquake epicenter, making a video showing the spot, and being called a conspiracy theorist for saying that earthquakes were happening below drill points for oil and gas and fracking. And at the time, 10 years ago, they were in denial about a relation between earthquakes and fracking and oil and gas. They still are in a denial about the oil and gas aspect of it. They try to only blame it on wastewater disposal. But I just got done showing you a boatload of oil pumping operations where they're not doing wastewater disposal fracking. Even out in the ocean, at the offshore rigs, they're not doing wastewater disposal at the offshore rigs, are they? Maybe they are. I don't think they are, though. So look at these pumping operations here. Look how many there are. Do you see how many there are? Every one of these little specks on the ground is a different pad for an oil well. This is just one Texas county here. Here's what the town looks like. And going through the town, we have oil pumping operations on all sides. Quite literally, going through town. And it's all around town, and every county is that way. Some counties are even more drilled to a point where I would call it excessive overdrive. That's a lot of drilling, even for people who see a lot of drilling. Right there. And that's not just the only spot that's like that. We have whole counties done that way. Millions of drill points across the edge of the North American craton. And energy comes in from the northwest, and guess what? We got the same sized earthquake, 3.0, that we got across California. What did it go up to? 2.8, 3.0? So the same sized energy that went down into California went over into Texas. And we started out with near 4.0 up in Idaho, which, like I told you, one more time I'll show you, on the edge of the craton up to the northwest. So we started with 4s, and we went down to 3s. Once we go over to the east, we get into Oklahoma, which again is on the edge of the craton. And then finally, we get over to eastern Tennessee with just a little trickle out of activity. So it goes 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s across the plate, following the craton boundary. This is one of my biggest discoveries, that earthquakes flow across craton boundaries as opposed to brute force just going through the plate. It's not random. It follows this like a road. And it's not just the North American plate it does it this way. It's every plate where the flow goes around the cratons of the plate. Australia, Europe, United States, South America. In addition to following the cratons, the other biggest discovery is that the earthquakes are progressing and following the thick red lines on the USGS map here, which are the plate boundaries. Oh, wait, hold on. We got a new 5.3 in the middle of Papua New Guinea. Hold on. Hang tight. Boom. The middle of the open area that I talked about has now been filled in with a new 5.3 earthquake. About a 5.5. About the same size, wouldn't you say? I mean, again, if we have 5.3s and 5.5s going around the entire planet, there's our other 5.3 to 5.5. All right, where did I leave off? Okay, Oklahoma, edge of the craton. All of these are drill points in Oklahoma. 500,000 or more different oil and gas drill points. Fracking, wastewater disposal, all of them. Just different kinds. Oil, gas, fracking, all sometimes right next to each other. And again, we cannot just blame wastewater disposal when we're seeing oil wells getting hit. And gas storage locations. Even storage locations. Even dry drill points. Like exploratory wells and... Anyway, these are drill points here. Oil and gas, mainly. And they're all pretty new. And look how many there are. They just go right across the road. Right across the river. Right across the hill. Over the hill and through the woods. To Frack Mother's house we go. Now let's go all the way over to the East Coast. Over here into Tennessee. And what do we got going on here? All of a sudden, USGS site crashes. Philadelphia, Tennessee, okay? Copy and paste the coordinates. We're at a 13-kilometer depth. This is on the edge of the craton. I don't think there's any drill points in Tennessee, from what I know. From what I understand, there's none. Or there maybe were a long time ago, but As far as I know right now, there are no active oil pumping operations in the whole state of Tennessee. Hope I'm right about that. Do we have anything here? Oh, wait, hold on. Look what we have right here. We have the big, large tower high voltage lines. Now, speaking of the high voltage lines, remember what I told you I was going to show you something a world away? I said that about a halfway through this broadcast. I said I was going to show you something relating to the power lines. Let me show you what I found. It's amazing. It's amazing. All the way over here in Japan, there was a 4-point-something earthquake that struck. I have to turn on our 7-day earthquake feed even to get the info. I think it was a 4.8, and it was in the Tokyo Basin, or in the basin where Tokyo is. Did I say 4.8? Maybe it was a 4.3. It's a 4.3. Okay. Well, go get the coordinates and put them in on Google Earth. And I was shocked to see what was there. No pun intended, shocked. Huge power lines. Like the kind you'd see in some kind of, well, for lack of a better term, Japanese Godzilla movie. That the high voltage power lines were so big, and they adjusted the earthquake coordinates since the earthquake originally struck. See where this one is? This is the newest one. There was a 4.8. There was. I didn't mark where the 4.8 is. It's a separate quake. It's got to be. Because this location's entirely different. It's like a couple miles away. I looked it up live on my stream yesterday. That's the only reason I know. Okay, so the earthquake came in right here, and right across the river is the high voltage power line. Pretty obvious. But I do want to go pull the other earthquakes that strike on land in Japan and across the plates over in Europe. I want to start looking these up individually to prove to you that there's, well, things at each location that lead to the earthquake, that some are very peculiar. Let me give you another example. A small 2-point-something earthquake struck down here in Chile. Same time yesterday, and I went and marked what was next to the earthquake epicenter. So let me show you. Go all the way down here. Hopefully the place mark's still there. There we are. The earthquake came in right below these weird features here, which are, I think, plateaus that they've built for farming. It's kind of a low resolution image here, but the earthquake came in right below there, and I looked in and I couldn't believe it, but here we've got high voltage power lines, Chilean versions, and you can see the clear cut on them. It's still like low resolution, so you can't really see the lines, but you can see the clear cut on it. And that's what it is. And so you can follow that clear cut back across over to the east. Just another example, and it was just a small earthquake. It was just a 2-point-something earthquake. I just randomly grabbed it, went and looked it up. It turns out a lot of these small earthquakes are coming in next to these high voltage power lines, transmission lines. And it's not just the United States. That's what I'm getting at here. Okay, now, finally, this update was really long, but I don't want you to lose focus of what the whole point of it is. The whole point of it is to bring you seismic information so you know what's current and what to watch for next. You use the arrows to understand the way that the energy flows overall. Now, on forecasting, I've explained, and I put out the method for everyone to copy if you want to. Of course, give credit back to me for if you copy it, but that the fulcrum points, the middle points between our sets of earthquakes on the red lines that the USGS provide to us on their map, on the plate boundaries, the middle points between our current sets of earthquakes, Fiji and Papua New Guinea, for instance, we watch our middle points for a release of something bigger than what's on both sides. So, for instance, here, the middle point between our two previous sets of earthquakes in Papua New Guinea, 5.3 just struck. Now we'll watch over in western Papua New Guinea and over in the Solomon Islands on both sides and the middle points for a new release that's bigger than the 5.3. And it's increasing. The power is increasing. The amplitude is increasing as power is pumped into the system from the deep earthquakes. And the deep earthquakes are hammering in or pushing up in on the underside of the plate, like the standing wave video that I showed you, where it's hammering in on the underside of the plate. Then it spreads out in a standing wave. And guess what? The more you hammer in to the tank, the bigger the waves get in the standing wave. Or the more power they get, the more amplitude. And I think the earthquakes are happening at the peak of each wave as it spreads across the area. But it could be in the valley or anywhere in between the peak and the valley. But each peak fills in the previous valley, or each valley fills in the previous peak, perfectly at the middle fulcrum point between the waves. And I think that's how we're getting our earthquakes spreading out across the plate boundaries. All right, so I know it sounds a little confusing, but simply put, the earthquakes are spreading around the plates, following the plate boundaries and the craton edges. And the magnitudes are related to each other, but it's not one earthquake causing the other. It's that all the earthquakes are caused by a greater force that's spreading out and causing the earthquakes. So we get a 4.4, a 4.4, a 4.4, a 4.8, and a 4.4, and a 4.4 going all the way across over to Europe, coming out of Asia. We get another set of 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, going up to the north. We get a 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, all the way around 4 different 5.5s in a day across the whole region, spreading out to the west, to the north, to the east, to the south, and then one bigger in the middle of the whole bunch. We get a bigger earthquake, 6.1, spreading down to the south tip. Think of all those 5.5s, add them together, put it down here. Same thing happened over here. Upper 5, low 6. Same spread going out across the plates in all directions. So there is a relation, but it's not one earthquake causing the other. It's that all the earthquakes are being caused by a greater force, and that's amazing to figure out. But what's the force? I think it's VLF, or ULF, ultra low frequency. And that ultra low frequency is coming up from down below, very far down below. How far down below? Well, I would think that maybe it's coming up from the core of the earth, possibly. And that the core of the earth is vibrating like a giant bass drum. But what vibrates like a giant bass drum? What vibrates ULF and VLF like a giant bass drum? Gee, I just don't know. Sarcasm here. Plasma. And I mean plasma like air glow plasma. But how could we have air glow plasma down in the core of the earth? That would mean that something in the core of the earth is vaporized. That it's vaporized nickel, vaporized iron, vaporized uranium that's rotating, electrically charged from the sun, and it's vibrating out the very low frequency up thousands of kilometers or hundreds and hundreds of miles up from the core, up through the magma, causing the vibration of the magma, VLF-wise, which then hammers in on the underside of the plate and starts the earthquake process of spreading up, out, and away, following the red lines, like a tank. So think of the red lines like the tank in the laboratory. And they're connected. And you push into one, and it spreads out and across to the others. And it doesn't lose much power. It doesn't lose much amplitude as it spreads out, because you're pumping more and more in as you try to spread it out. It pumps more and more in. Think of these sides of the tank, the back side and the front side, as they push into each other. You got to understand how this tank works. That each wall can push in towards each other and pull away from each other. And as it pushes in and pulls away, each wall, this wall, or maybe just one of the walls does it, but I would think both would do it, that as it pushes in, it can jam more energy into that fluid and increase the amplitude. But now think of it like those walls pushing in, like these, the deep earthquakes pushing up. I know, I get a little sidetracked sometimes, guys. So back to it. Do you have an earthquake plan? You know what to do when an earthquake strikes? This is something everybody should be able to agree on. Even my trolls should be able to agree that it's probably a good idea for everybody to have an emergency kit of some kind. It'll get you through severe weather. It'll get you through flood and fire evacuations, and you have an extra ID, you have your extra documents like birth certificates, insurance cards. You also have a form of communication, a way to charge your mobile device, a change of clothes, a set of shoes. Probably wouldn't hurt to have first aid, sanitation, medicines if you require them. You'll think of better things to put in there. I'm just getting you started on having an emergency kit, and you'll be way better off than all those other people who just refuse to have a plan or be prepared. Now, with the earthquakes, you would, I think, pick a spot in the house that you'll take shelter so that you can just immediately go there even if the power's out in the house and it's dark. But if the power's out and it's dark, let's say you're in bed. Do you have a set of shoes or hard bottom slippers by the side of your bed? Something so basic like that. And it, again, not just for earthquakes, for severe weather, for a fire. Do you want to fumble around and try and find your shoes in the dark if the power's out? Or you can't get to a light switch? Or do you want to have something pre-set up where you just kind of know where you can go to generally? And you got some shoes right there. That way, if there's broken stuff across the floor, you're not walking across with bare feet or socks or whatever. Basic idea. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. So that's a good first step. But you'll think of way better things, like I said. So have that plan. Make sure the people in your household or your people you work with, that you also know where to go if you're going to go outside. That way, and your kids too. So that way, if something happens, you get separated or whatever, that you all know to go to that spot outside. So it's just kind of like a fire drill almost. You have to know a spot outside where you're all going to meet. Okay? And I will be back. If anything else goes down, please be safe. Have a good night. Or morning, or wherever you are. It's 10:40 p.m. here. It's like the latest update I've done in years. I feel like a young Dutch again. Ah, yes. Much love, guys. Peace out.